The safety's off now. The rain fell in crystalline sheets across Neo-Venice's floating districts, each droplet refracting the neon glow of the city's quantum towers into prismatic fragments that danced across the dark water. Zara Nightshade moved like a shadow through the narrow alleys between the ancient stone buildings and modern glass spires, her footsteps silent on the wet cobblestones despite her urgent pace. 3 hours. That's how long Victor Sterling had been running, and she was growing impatient. The thief was good, she'd give him that. Better than most of the marks she'd been hired to eliminate over the years. But everyone made mistakes eventually, and Victor's mistake had been stealing the Chronos fragment from the Meridian Gallery. The quantum artifact wasn't just priceless art. It was a key to technology that could reshape reality itself. Her employers at the Obsidian Syndicate couldn't afford to let it fall into the wrong hands. Zara's earpiece crackled to life as she scaled the exterior wall of the San Marco Cathedral, now converted into the city's most prestigious museum. Target confirmed on the northwest bell tower, her handler's voice whispered through the static. Visual confirmation of the package. She didn't bother responding. Words were wasted energy, and she needed every advantage tonight. Victor Sterling wasn't just any thief. He was a ghost who specialized in impossible heists, a man who could walk through laser grids and dance around pressure sensors like they were playground games. The fact that he'd chosen to hole up in a building with only one way down told her something was wrong. The cathedral's Gothic spires stretched into the storm clouds above, their ancient stone gargoyles keeping eternal watch over the floating city. Zara hauled herself over the cathedral's edge and onto the rain-slicked roof tiles, her modified grip boots providing traction on the treacherous surface. The wind whipped her dark hair across her face as she crept toward the bell tower, her hand resting on the grip of her plasma pistol. Through the arched windows of the tower, she could see him. Victor Sterling stood with his back to her, silhouetted, against the storm-lit sky. Even from behind, he cut an impressive figure, tall and lean with the kind of confident posture that came from years of walking the edge between life and death. His expensive coat was soaked through, and his usually perfect hair hung in wet strands around his face, but he seemed completely unbothered by the weather. Zara slipped through the window with practiced grace, her weapon drawn and trained on the center of his back. "Turn around slowly," she commanded, her voice cutting through the sound of rain on stone. "Keep your hands where I can see them." Victor chuckled, a low sound that seemed to resonate through the stone chamber. Zara Nightshade, the Obsidian Syndicate's finest. He turned with deliberate slowness, his hands raised in mock surrender. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Up close, she could see why Victor had such a reputation with wealthy clients beyond his professional skills. Sharp cheekbones, piercing gray eyes, and a smile that suggested he knew secrets worth killing for. He wore his danger like expensive cologne, subtle but unmistakable. "Where's the Chronos fragment?" Zara kept her weapon steady, though something about his calm demeanor was making her nervous. In her experience, truly dangerous people were never more lethal than when they appeared completely relaxed. "Straight to business, I admire that." Victor's eyes never left her face, even with the plasma pistol pointed at his chest. "Though I have to say, the Syndicate's intelligence network isn't what it used to be." "Meaning?" "Meaning you're not the only one who knows I'm here." He glanced toward the window she'd entered through. "In fact, I'd say you have about 30 seconds before this place becomes very unfriendly." Zara's enhanced hearing picked up the faint whir of approaching aircraft. Her jaw tightened. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Victor's smile widened. "Tell me, did your handler mention that the Meridian Gallery's security system was designed by Stellar Tech Industries?" The name sent a chill through her. Stellar Tech was Victor's former employer, the company where he'd learned everything he knew about bypassing impossible security measures. So the system doesn't just track stolen items, it tracks the people who steal them. And more importantly, it tracks the people who come looking for the thieves. Victor's hand moved slowly toward his coat pocket. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Zara's finger tightened on the trigger. Hands up. Relax, I'm just reaching for this. He pulled out a small device that looked like a modified tablet, its screen displaying a complex schematic of the cathedral. Red dots were moving across the display, at least a dozen of them, converging on their position. Stellar Tech security drones, Victor explained casually. Military grade. They'll be here in 20 seconds, and they have orders to eliminate anyone in possession of syndicate biomarkers, which, if my information is correct, includes the nanoscale trackers in your bloodstream. Zara's enhanced reflexes kicked in as she processed the implications. The Obsidian Syndicate did use biological tracking for their operatives, but that information was classified at the highest levels. How do you know about the trackers? Because I helped design them. Victor's revelation hit her like a physical blow. 3 years ago, when Stellar Tech was developing next-generation security protocols, the Syndicate was one of our beta clients. The sound of approaching drones was growing louder, their engines creating a harmonic whine that seemed to make the ancient stones vibrate. Zara could see their lights now, cutting through the storm like angry stars. You set me up, she said, though her weapon never wavered. I prefer to think of it as providing you with an opportunity to make better choices. Victor gestured toward a stone staircase that led deeper into the tower. There's a service tunnel that connects to the old Venetian aqueduct system. We can be in the canal district in 10 minutes. We? You think I'm stupid enough to stay here when Stellar Tech security arrives? They have orders to eliminate witnesses, too. Victor started moving toward the stairs, apparently unconcerned that she still had a gun pointed at him. Besides, you want the Chronos fragment, and I'm the only one who knows where it is. Zara hesitated. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, but the approaching drones left her with limited options. Through the window, she could see searchlights, beginning to sweep the cathedral's exterior. Why help me? She demanded, backing toward the stairs while keeping her weapon trained on him. Victor paused at the top of the staircase, his expression becoming serious for the first time since she'd arrived. Because the people who hired me to steal the fragment aren't the people I thought they were. And because you're not the person the Syndicate thinks you are. Before she could ask what he meant, the first drone appeared at the window, its scanning beams sweeping across the chamber. Zara dove for the staircase as energy blasts began to sizzle through the air where she'd been standing. They descended, the narrow spiral staircase at a dead run, their footsteps echoing off the ancient stone walls. Behind them, she could hear the drones beginning to penetrate the building, their mechanical voices announcing targets acquired in emotionless synthetic tones. Left here, Victor directed as they reached a junction in the passages beneath the cathedral. The tunnels were older than the building above, carved from the bedrock when Venice was still a collection of islands rather than a floating city. Zara followed him through a maze of passages that seemed to know by heart, her mind racing to process everything that had happened in the last 5 minutes. Victor Sterling, master thief and her target, had somehow orchestrated her arrival and was now leading her to safety. The Chronos fragment, which she'd been sent to recover, was apparently not what her employers had told her it was. And Stellar Tech Industries, one of the most powerful corporations in the galaxy, was hunting both of them. They emerged from the tunnels into a service bay beneath one of the city's floating platforms. Victor led her to a sleek speedboat moored at a private dock, its quantum engines already humming with readiness. After you, he said, gesturing toward the boat with exaggerated courtesy. Zara kept her weapon drawn as she stepped aboard, but she was beginning to realize that if Victor had wanted her dead, she would be dead already. Where are we going? Somewhere we can talk without interruption. Victor took the controls and guided the boat out into the maze of canals that connected Neo-Venice's districts. Somewhere I can explain why the Obsidian Syndicate wants you to believe I'm the villain in this story. As they sped through the neon-lit waterways, dodging cargo haulers and pleasure craft, Zara found herself studying the man who had completely upended her mission. Victor Sterling was definitely not what she'd expected. He moved with the fluid, grace of someone accustomed to danger, but there was something else in his manner, a carefulness that suggested he understood the weight of the secrets he carried. The real game begins. The interior of Victor's safe house was a study in controlled chaos. Quantum processors hummed quietly in reinforced cases along one wall, their displays showing cascading streams of encrypted data. Holographic projectors cast three-dimensional maps of Neo-Venice's underground networks across the center of the room, while surveillance feeds from across the city flickered on multiple screens. Zara kept her weapon drawn as she took in the sophisticated setup. This isn't just a hideout. You've been planning this for months. Longer than that. Victor moved to a secured cabinet and withdrew the Chronos fragment, a crystalline device no larger than his palm that seemed to contain swirling galaxies of light. 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days to be exact. Ever since I discovered what the Syndicate did to you. Stop talking in riddles. Zara's patience was wearing thin. What does a memory core have to do with me? Victor placed the fragment in a quantum reader, and the room's holographic displays shifted to show neural pathway maps and memory reconstruction algorithms. Because the memories stored in here belong to someone named Phoenix Nightshade. Your sister. The words hit Zara like a physical blow. She staggered backward, her weapon wavering for the first time since she'd entered the cathedral. I don't have a sister. I've never had family. That's what they want you to believe. Victor's voice was gentler now, understanding the magnitude of what he was revealing. Phoenix was a researcher at Stellar Tech, one of the lead developers on Project Mindbridge, a program designed to create perfect operatives by selectively editing memories and implanting new ones. Zara's enhanced reflexes were useless against the flood of conflicting emotions and half-remembered dreams that suddenly assaulted her consciousness. Faces without names, places she'd never been but somehow recognized, feelings of loss that had no source. She discovered that the Syndicate was planning to use Mindbridge technology to create an army of assassins with no personal connections, no divided loyalties, no inconvenient moral qualms. Victor activated another display, showing personnel, files, and classified documents. Phoenix tried to expose the program, but before she could go public, she was killed in what appeared to be a shuttle accident. Appeared to be? The Obsidian Syndicate has very talented accident specialists. Victor's expression hardened. But Phoenix was smart. She managed to upload her consciousness into a Chronos fragment moments before her death. Everything she knew about Mindbridge, about what they did to you, about who you really were before they rebuilt your memories. Zara sank into a chair, her weapon finally lowering. The implications were staggering. Everything she remembered about her recruitment, her training, her dedication to the Syndicate's cause, all of it could be artificial constructs implanted in her mind. Why didn't you just tell me this from the beginning? She asked quietly. Because Mindbridge conditioning includes safeguards against exactly this kind of revelation. If I'd approached you directly with the truth, your programmed responses would have kicked in. You would have killed me and reported back to your handlers that the threat had been neutralized. Victor moved to another console and began downloading data from the Chronos fragment. I needed you to make the choice to listen, to want to understand. I needed you to start questioning things on your own. The sound of approaching engines interrupted their conversation. Through the townhouse's windows, they could see speedboats, cutting through the canals, their searchlights sweeping across the water. Stellar Tech? Zara asked, moving to the window. Worse. Victor's fingers flew across his control interface, activating defensive systems throughout the building. That's Lucia Ravens and her extraction team. Zara recognized the name from intelligence briefings. Lucia Ravens was a former syndicate operative who'd gone freelance, taking contracts from the highest bidder. She was also, according to the files, one of the deadliest people in the galaxy. "Let me guess," Zara said, checking her weapon's charge. "Level. Another old friend with a complicated history?" "Former partner, actually. We worked together on several high-profile heists before she decided that betraying clients was more profitable than completing jobs." Victor sealed the Chronos fragment in a protective case and slung it across his shoulder. "She must have been hired to clean up loose ends." The first explosion shook the building as Lucia's team breached the lower level. Emergency lighting bathed the room in red as Victor's security systems activated, but Zara could tell they wouldn't hold for long. "There's an escape route through the roof," Victor said, leading her toward a concealed staircase. "If we can reach my backup transport, we can get to the neural clinic on Platform 7. Dr. Wendell specializes in reversing memory modification." They climbed quickly through the narrow passage as sounds of combat echoed from below. Victor's automated defenses were putting up a fight, but they were facing professionals who knew how to disable security systems efficiently. Emerging onto the rooftop, Zara immediately spotted the problem. Lucia Ravens stood on the adjacent building, a sniper rifle trained on the exit. Even in the rain and wind, Zara could see the woman's predatory smile. "Victor Sterling," Lucia called out, her voice carrying easily across the gap between buildings. "Always so predictable. Did you really think I wouldn't know about your little love nest?" Victor raised his hands slowly, the Chronos fragment clearly visible in its case. "Lucia, you're looking well. Freelance work agrees with you. It pays better than partnership, I'll give you that." Lucia's rifle never wavered from its target. "Though I have to admit, this particular job has been more interesting than most. The syndicate is offering quite a premium for both of you alive." "Both of us." Zara stepped into view, her own weapon trained on Lucia. "What does the syndicate want with Victor?" Lucia laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Oh, this is rich. She doesn't know. Does she, Victor? You haven't told her the best part. Lucia, don't. Victor Sterling isn't just some master thief who stumbled onto syndicate secrets," Lucia continued, clearly enjoying herself. "He's the man who designed the Mind Bridge program in the first place. Phoenix Nightshade's research partner and co-conspirator." Zara felt the world shift around her as she processed this revelation. She turned slowly to face Victor, seeing the truth written in his expression. "I tried to stop it," Victor said quietly. "When I realized what the syndicate intended to do, with our research, Phoenix and I tried to destroy the program. But we were too late. They'd already begun the first round of test subjects." "Test subjects like me," Zara said, her voice hollow. "You were never supposed to be hurt. The program was meant to help trauma victims, people who'd suffered so much psychological damage that conventional therapy couldn't reach them. The ability to selectively edit traumatic memories while preserving core personality and skills, it could have saved millions of lives." Lucia's voice cut through the emotional revelation. "How touching. A reunion of the Mindbridge family. Unfortunately, my employers aren't interested in your guilt or redemption. They want their property back." "I'm not property," Zara said, her anger finally overriding her confusion. "According to syndicate legal documents, you're a prototype that cost them 30 million credits to develop. They're quite eager to reclaim their investment." Lucia shifted her aim slightly. "Now, Victor, why don't you toss that fragment over here, and we can all have a civilized conversation about your futures?" Victor glanced at Zara, then at the gap between buildings. "You know, Lucia, you always were terrible at mathematics." "What?" "You're assuming we're trapped up here, but you forgot about the quantum displacement grid I installed in this district last year." Victor activated a device on his wrist, and the air around them began to shimmer with energy. It was designed for emergency extractions. The rooftop beneath their feet began to glow as the displacement field activated. Lucia realized what was happening and fired, but her shot passed harmlessly through space that Victor and Zara no longer occupied. They materialized on Platform 7, 3 districts away in the lobby of a discreet medical facility. Dr. Wendell, an elderly man with kind eyes and steady hands, was waiting for them. "The neural interface is prepared," he said without preamble. "But I should warn you, reversing mind bridge conditioning is not without risks. There's a possibility that recovering your original memories could cause psychological fracturing." Zara looked at the Chronos fragment in Victor's hands, then at the man who had turned her world upside down in a single evening. "What are the alternatives?" "You remain as you are," Dr. Wendell replied. "A highly skilled operative with implanted memories and manufactured loyalties, or you attempt to reclaim your true identity and risk losing your sanity in the process." "Some choice." Victor stepped forward. "There's a third option. We don't just restore your memories, we enhance them. The fragment contains not just Phoenix's knowledge, but her skills, her insights, her understanding of the Syndicate's operations. You could become more than you were before the conditioning, more than they made you to be." Zara considered the possibilities. She could walk away, disappear into the vast anonymity of the galaxy's outer systems. She could submit to the memory restoration and hope to survive the process intact. Or she could take the risk of neural enhancement and become something entirely new. Through the clinic's windows, she could see Lucia's boats patrolling the canals, searching for any sign of their quarry. The Syndicate would never stop hunting them. Stellar Tech would continue to see them as loose ends to be eliminated. And somewhere in the city's shadows, other mind bridge victims were living lies without even knowing it. "Do it," Zara said, settling into the neural interface chair. "All of it. Phoenix's memories, her knowledge, everything." As Dr. Wendell activated the quantum transfer protocols, Zara felt her consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries that had defined her for 3 years. Memories flooded back. A childhood spent with a brilliant sister who believed technology could heal the human condition. Years of research and discovery that had been twisted into an instrument of control, the moment when Phoenix had realized the true scope of the Syndicate's plans. But more than memories returned. She gained Phoenix's understanding of neural architecture, her insights into the Syndicate's operations, her knowledge of other mind bridge facilities hidden throughout the galaxy. She saw the faces of dozens of other victims, felt their pain and confusion as their identities were stripped away and rebuilt. When the process was complete, Zara Nightshade opened her eyes with the combined knowledge and experience of 2 brilliant women. She was no longer just an assassin or just a victim. She was something the Syndicate had never intended to create. She was their worst nightmare. Victor watched her with concern and hope warring in his expression. "How do you feel?" Zara stood, slowly, testing her balance as her enhanced mind processed the vast amount of new information. "Like I have work to do," she said finally. "The Syndicate has 17 active mind bridge facilities across 12 star systems. Lucia Ravens is working with at least 3 other extraction teams. And there are 47 other victims like me who need to know the truth about what was done to them." She looked at Victor with eyes that held depths of understanding that hadn't been there an hour before. "Phoenix trusted you once. She trusted you with her life, with her work, with her hope for redemption. Now I need to know, are you ready to finish what you 2 started?" Victor smiled, and for the first time, since she'd met him, it reached his eyes. "The real game begins now." Outside, Neo-Venice continued its eternal dance of light and shadow, unaware that 3 people in a hidden clinic had just declared war on one of the most powerful organizations in the galaxy. But Lucia Ravens would discover soon enough that her prey had become predators, and the Obsidian Syndicate would learn that some experiments succeed far beyond their creators' intentions. The safety wasn't just off anymore. It had been thrown away entirely.